Hi, I'm Jędrzej Czerep, head of the Middle East and Africa program at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. With the second Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg fast approaching, I'm highlighting 10 areas to keep an eye on to assess whether the summit is successful for Vladimir Putin, beneficial for Africa, or not. The first Russia-Africa summit in Sochi in 2019 attracted 43 heads of state and government. The Sochi Declaration, adopted back then, stressed commitment to international law, sovereignty, non-interference, and respect for national values. By hosting this summit now, when Russia wages unprovoked war against Ukraine and breaks all those commitments, Russia wants to show that it's not that isolated and remains a desired partner for many. Sort of back to the old normal diplomacy. For Africa, doing things with China, Turkey or Emirates or Russia has always been more about diversifying partnerships than making firm geopolitical choices. But still, not everyone will be comfortable about being a Russian fig leaf now. Plus, Western partners are watching. Let's see how many are willing to play the game of pretending that everything is fine. This, as well as mixed experience of Russian inroads into Africa, will affect the overall atmosphere. Also, Putin easily gets annoyed when asked difficult questions, so look for signs of tension in the air. Key controversies are: when Russia withdrew from the Black Sea Grain Initiative just a few days ago, it sent shockwaves across Africa. Kenya called this move a stab in the back. Ukrainian grain supplied stocks for the World Food Programme, which provides aid to refugee camps like Dadaab in Kenya, where conditions will further deteriorate after Russia's move. Putin will try to convince Africans that the entire scheme was a sham and that Russia is capable of and willing to go alone with grain supplies. But can it be trusted as a genuine humanitarian actor that cares deeply about availability of foods while it bombs stocks of grain in Ukraine and threatens to use hunger as a weapon of war? Russia signed MOUs with several African states to build nuclear reactors. Those include Ethiopia, Zambia, Uganda. In Egypt, Rosatom already started building one. In this particular area, Russia is ahead of the rest of the world and can claim some unique advantage. Originally, cooperation on nuclear technologies was to be the main theme of the summit. But can it be seen as a partner to bet on issues of nuclear safety when it plays with fire in the Zaporizhia power plant in Ukraine? Wagner's mutiny in Russia brought a lot of confusion in Africa, where the group operates many of its businesses. The rift exposed weakness and divisions of the Russian political center. That doesn't make Russia look like a reliable partner. Certain illusions that Russia is a strong and effective partner, a sort of a model of leadership, is just collapsing. That will make African leaders think twice before embracing Russia's promises. Putin's visible weakness will test credibility of the Russian promise of bringing upon a more just world order, where multipolarity lifts Africa's weight on the international stage. It is not new. Russia uses this rhetoric a lot because it resonates well with real, widespread concerns. I described it in detail in my article, Illusion of Attractiveness, Russia Pursuit of a Success Story in Africa, which can be found in this newly released book by Agnieszka Legucka and Robert Kupiecki, available free on our website. Recently, South Africa's ANC parliamentary delegation discussed this new world order that Russia says it is facilitating with their United Russia counterpart. And next month we'll see the BRICS summit, where a dozen new states will seek memberships in the bloc, seeing it as a beacon for an alternative. Recent pro-Western turn by Turkey signals that this key Russian promise only appeals when Russia is seen as strong, credible and victorious. And it's not. Agreements will be signed, declarations made, but the true essence of Russian-African relations is what happens in the shadows. While the official part of the 2019 summit was not that impressive, over the subsequent 4 years Russia succeeded in expanding in Africa, countering the West, shaping sentiments, using behind-the-scenes tools and mechanisms mainly provided by Prigozhin. The true game will now be about overcoming sanctions. We won't hear much about that, but it's worth setting our ears in that direction. Public intellectuals, activists and social media personalities are key in shaping popular perceptions. The 2019 Sochi summit hosted several of them, who later promoted Russia and justified whatever it did using local contexts. Natalie Yamp proudly called herself the Dame of Sochi ever since. In the meantime, a new generation of influencers gained prominence. But also, some leading figures like Kemi Seba seemed to be distancing themselves from Russia recently. It will be interesting to see who takes the floor and what degree of criticism they represent. Remember, Russia needs Africa far more than Africa needs Russia. In trade, it's slightly improving, but it still means nothing compared to the EU or China. This offers African participants some leverage and more bargaining power. Let's see if they use it. Macky Sall promised to push Putin on the question of returning Ukrainian children as a follow-up to the recent African peace-seeking mission to Ukraine and Russia. The stage is there to do it. African states who shy away from condemning Russia are often being portrayed as generally pro-Russian. This is oversimplified. Some will take the opportunity to stop by in Ukraine, either on the way to or from St. Petersburg. President Zelensky recently invited Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to do so. Congolese Felix Tshisekedi is told to have similar plans, and the Americans are pushing others in the same direction. Let's see how many leaders will take the opportunity to hear Ukrainian perspectives on the war and grain issues, or will come to a summit that Ukraine wants to call with Africa soon. While many observers see Russian abilities in Africa declining, it's always wrong to underestimate that. Russia proved highly adaptive, is fast learning, and exploits windows of opportunity to the max. So we can always expect something unexpected.